All right, so let's go ahead and get started. It's the Doctor of Digital podcast, and my special guest today is Dr. Morissa Schwartz. She is the founder and CEO of Dr. Rissy's Writing and Marketing and GenZ Publishing. There's all kinds of great things. That's why I wanted to get her on the show here. So she is top 10 in social media and SEO for, and I would say New York and New Jersey, because I used to live in that area, but I wouldn't say that anymore. So I'm just going to say New York and New Jersey. So, and actually we share something in common. I hadn't mentioned this, but I was actually born in Jersey City. So yeah, we got another thing in common. See? So in any case, what her company has done is she has produced 6 Amazon bestsellers. She's been featured on Forbes, MTV, and a best-selling author herself. She's also been named the voice of Generation Z by Community Magazine. And for all those people who are the naysayers out there, what can you do with a liberal arts degree? I always answer the same: anything you would like. She's got a doctorate from Drew University, and see, she's done very well for herself. So welcome to the Doctor of Digital podcast. This is the only podcast that is for business owners, CEOs, and leaders who would like to grow their business using social audio. So stick around. We might have some special things for you. So our guest today, Dr. Morissa Schwartz, thank you for being some time and setting some time aside. Thank you for being here. Welcome to the show, Morissa.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here. That was a wonderful intro. I appreciate it.
That's great. I'm sure your mom and your family is very proud of you. So, well, I hope we'll get started with what question is, like, could you tell us a little bit about your background? What's the story there? And how did you get started in doing this particular field, especially since I do have this personal interest because the liberal arts, and how do you make a career out of it, right? So some of us a liberal arts degree. Yes, we're very interested in that question.
Yeah. Oh, that's, I actually started out in the biomedical sciences. So I was in the first graduating class of the Academy for Biomedical Sciences in Middlesex, New Jersey. And I found myself, though, by the time I was in like sophomore, junior year, I would rush through my regular work. I would rush through my lab work, rush through my science work so I could work on writing and editing. And at the time I had started freelance editing. My friends were getting jobs at the mall or internships at hospitals, and a lot of them didn't enjoy what they were doing, but I didn't feel like that when I was freelance editing or even working on my own creative projects and writing. That was when I realized, I think I really enjoy this writing stuff more than I enjoy the science stuff. So I did graduate, though. I graduated with my biomedical science degree, and then I went on in the liberal arts field. I went to Drew University, followed by Monmouth University, got my master's in corporate and public communication, and then my doctorate in arts and literature. And during that time, I was just following my passion, which was writing. But a lot of my clients were saying, I really like your writing. I would love to publish your articles on my blog, but they're just not SEO friendly. So luckily I was a student. I took some classes, learned about SEO, and was able to implement SEO strategies in my writing. And then, I was on social media because these are the times, and I had clients saying, hey, would you write for my social media? Which is what brought me into the other side of writing, writing for marketing, and also learning about marketing strategies. So I learned how to create social media posts while also having SEO and PR in mind. I started doing PR as well because, you write an article for Huffington Post, or at the time I was a writer for Entertainment Weekly. That's PR, right? You're getting out there, you're getting a backlink. It's great for SEO. It's great for your social media. You could share on social. So I just kind of stepped into this 360 marketing world, and that's how I got here. And at the same time, I'm passionate about books. So I started my book publishing company.
Wow, that's great. Really awesome. So one of the things I'd be curious about, because it's kind of a combination, because it's one of the things I've seen over the years is that there's really been a change. Like we write for academic things, and then we write for other ways. And then the whole internet social media thing came around. What would you say are some of the hot growth areas that you've seen that's kind of a combination between your writing skills and social media, SEO, et cetera?
Yeah, I mean, there are so many. It really, nowadays, when you write, it has to be with all these different platforms in mind. But even something I'm seeing indirectly is writing scripts for videos. Like I do TikTok videos almost every day, and that involves writing. You have to write the script. You have to figure out what captions you want on the screen, what you want to bold, what you want to put in your description. And when you share it on various platforms, what are you going to say? It's a very new form of communication that involves writing and acting and speaking, and social media and PR. It combines everything. So that's a pretty interesting thing that most of the world has been participating in for only about 3 years now.
Mhm. So those would be some of the changes, because that's what I was curious about. So again, I could kind of relate, with you, because you have some academic writing and you do one type, it's academic and what have you, but then there are some changes because of the internet and the impact that it's had with SEO and social media and what have you. So those would be some of the changes that you've seen or you've adjusted over the years that you've seen the market change and PR change.
Yeah. Oh yeah, most definitely. I mean, when I started doing marketing, social media, maybe 8 years ago, everything was Facebook. People wanted, hey, I want 1,000 followers on my Facebook page. You don't hear very many people talk about Facebook now unless they're running Facebook ads and it's like a B2C company. We have very much gone the way of video in a lot of cases. Although I do think that there is a place for written word as well, just pure written word. There are still many readers, and that's why I love the advancement of indie publishing, where you can publish these books and have them readily available and promote them via social media to people, like Book Talk, Bookstagram, Am Writing, Am Reading are all very popular communities on social media.
So who is it that you would work with? So, I mean, is this individuals that you work with? Do you work with companies or a combination? What would you recommend that people would do today? Because your background is really in social media and PR and writing. What would you recommend people, let's say they've got a message or they've got a story, what would you recommend that they do today?
It depends on their goals. Let's say you are an author, you're looking to promote your book. I would definitely make sure that your book is good, edited, formatted, all nice, professional. And let's say you're going to self-publish it or publish it independently with a small publisher. You still want to really promote it, get it out there. So creating videos for Book Talk is great, right? You basically make a video, talk about your book, make it snappy and eye-catching, 20 seconds or 20 to 30 seconds. Put it out there, have your hashtags, including Book Talk, and it's going to get out there. People are going to, see your energy and want to maybe read your book if you put out enough videos. Same thing with Twitter, go on there, promote that way. So I have an author who writes this really cool sci-fi books, and she puts out tweets as if she was her protagonist, and I think that's such a cool thing, and it really gets people into it because they're like, oh man, an android writing tweets, what is this? And it's promote her book, but a lot of people go into it not even realizing it. They just think, what is this android writing tweets? That's interesting. So I think finding ways to engage people, to get them to grab their attention is a great way on social media, and that's what we do, helping our clients to have people find them on social through these odd, interesting ways.
Do you work with companies too, or business owners? And because you do have part of that in your background too, the kind of the PR, or maybe they're not as familiar with things like social media and SEO. So you work with companies as well to get a message out, a corporate message too?
Yeah, I work with a lot of startups and small businesses. I grew up in my parents' mom and pop carpet shop. So I grew up around small businesses and Main Street. So I always like to work with smaller companies as well, or startups. I would say about 90% of our clients, they're startups, right? They're companies that are looking to gain their first, say, 5 to 10,000 followers, and they want to engage those people and turn them into clients. So we definitely help them with that. We've also worked with larger companies before. We've written about 300 tweets for Microsoft's UI division or UX division. We've written 2 guidebooks for them. We've written several white papers for HP. And, we enjoy working with the larger companies like that as well. But, my stomping ground is always going to be the small businesses and startups.
Okay. What would you recommend a person, either an individual, if they're an author, or a startup or a small company, what would you recommend that they do to try to get their message? Like, what are the channels and what kinds of things would you recommend that they do?
Yeah, I think the first thing is whatever you do, have a strategy that comprises not just social media, but PR and SEO. They all work together, even ads. So for example, when you do your SEO research, those keywords that you find can be used for your ads, and they will save you money in the long run, because if you look and you see, this keyword doesn't have that much competition, but there are a lot of people searching for it, you can get it at a pretty cheap price, and you can do your SEO work so that you're really getting it out there. So I think looking at things from multiple angles and seeing how they can work together is really helpful. Same thing with your social media and PR. If you publish, let's say you publish an article on Medium, you don't just want it to sit on Medium. People might not see it, but let's say you have 1,000 followers on Twitter, you can tweet that article out. And now you're going to get in front of, say, 300 people, because the algorithm only shows your posts to about 10% of your followers, but you're doing that cross promotion. So that's usually my first step, is to post multiple places. Don't be afraid to cross promote and engage.
Okay. So there's a number of services. So what I'd like to do is try to close out the interview, but you've done a number of areas that you've addressed here. What would you say, and how would a person get a hold of you? What kinds of things would they suggest? Like, what would you say that they should do, and how would they get a hold of you? And what's the best way to reach you?
Yeah, so there are so many services. There's PR, SEO, social media, and ads, but they do all really go together. I wouldn't say one is necessarily so much better than the other, but for most startups, social media is the most accessible way. PR is probably the second, where you can write an article, have it featured on a high domain authority website and get traffic from that, and then share it on your social media. So that's usually what I would start with. But you can get a hold of me. My website is drrissy.com. My social media everywhere is Morissa Schwartz. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, all of them. And yeah, I'm available to answer any questions at any of those platforms.
That sounds awesome. And hopefully if you listen to the end of the show, I also try to give a free offer of competitive website analysis. I'd see how you match up to your competitors, because a lot of people know, well, how come I can't get all the leads and sales that I want? Somebody might be taking them from you. So, and also I'm going to mention, since we're talking about authors, I do have a forthcoming novel as well, Burning America in the Best Interests of the Children. So yes, some of us are doing the writing our own self. So thank you very much, Morissa. We thank you for all the time that you take out, and also for sharing some of your expertise with us. And that's it for today's interview. Appreciate it. If you listen to the Doctorate Digital Podcast, until next time, Deus Vult.
Awesome. Oh, let me